Well, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what, I was thinking that maybe with this happening, with the PGA seeing that lives, using different ideas of entertaining, music, microphones, things like that. I think, maybe the PGA, the heads might be talking, hey, maybe we should start to incorporate, some music, or I don't know. I feel like it's hard because it's going to go against everything that they know of.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, there's already some of the stuff that Liv did that they're, mainly the thing so far is just the bigger purses, smaller fields. Right. That's kind of being copied already by the PGA Tour in next year's model. But ultimately, there's another project that's coming on board in the next couple of years where Rory McIlroy and Tiger Woods partnered together to form a new company called Tomorrow Sports. And they're going to actually play indoor simulator golf with teams, 3-on-3.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so it'll be it looked like the marketing looked like they're going to be like in a stadium in Vegas, and all these people are going to show up and watch them play indoors. But from what I've heard is they're going to build a studio in Florida closer to where most of the pros live. And on a Monday night, it'll be live. They're going to be playing on a simulator. They're going to play 9 holes, and everybody's going to watch Rahm and Tiger and so play against so-and-so. And it's going to be, on the Golf Channel or something like that, or NBC Sports. And Rory and Tiger are partners on it. And it just got announced about 2 or 3 weeks ago. So there's technology. And that's one of the things, I've been in this golf business a long time. And it's amazing how, like in San Diego, for the longest time, nobody wanted to go to one of those indoor simulator places because you could play outdoors and the weather's great. But now technology's gotten so great, and you've got, a bar there, you've got entertainment, you've got big screen TVs, you got your friends. You can go to some of these places that have, 6 to 8 simulators in a bar and have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And that's really, it was spurned a lot by the place Top Golf. I don't know if you've been to one of those yet.
Yeah, in Vegas.
But yeah, those places are incredible. I mean, they're amazing how full they are when you go to one of them. And those are all over the country now. And so that's kind of the future of, kind of that more fun type style of golf. And Tiger and Rory are going to try to bring that to TV.
I think that'd be cool too, because in a sense, it'd kind of be like you're watching them hang out, because I'm assuming they're going to have cameras on them as as the play going on in the simulator. So you're going to be able to see them hang out and be themselves and, chat it up and stuff. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be interesting because I've heard people talk about it, and some are like, that's not going to work. I mean, in the beginning, I think it'll be new and interesting. We'll see where it goes. I mean, they're definitely going to invest a lot of money into it, because to build that kind of studio, to use that type of technology, those pros are going to expect when they hit that 7-iron, it better go 175 yards on that screen, because ultimately they know exactly how far the ball's supposed to go.
Yeah, right.
These guys,
it's pretty accurate though, right?
That's what's so great about these places. And that's one of the reasons, that was kind of my point I didn't make earlier, is in the past, we'd be like, this isn't very accurate. This isn't real golf. Now it's like so accurate and so good. You're like, dang, I can play like 18 holes indoors in like an hour or 45 minutes. This is like, it's not going to cost me 4 hours here.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and then you're also not walking, getting in the cart, driving, like, you're staying right there.
Yeah.
I used one of those, I don't know what it was called, but it was like a TrackMan or something. It was a smaller one. The guys that were working on it there, they were testing it out. They were telling me it was only like 2,000-3,000 or something. But I was just hitting with that, and it was telling me exactly how far it was and the spin and everything. I think, if that is to work with what they're doing, like you said, it's going to have to be accurate and exactly, how they would be on the course.
Yeah. I mean, that monitor you were using was called Full Swing Golf.
Uh-huh.
The CEO of that company is actually a member here at the Grand.
Okay.
And that technology uses radar technology, and it's literally tracking the ball from the minute you hit it until it lands.
Wow.
And it's unbelievable. But if you think about it, you can have a self-driving car right now.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that 15 or 20 years ago. Would you get in a car and let the car
Not a
drive
chance.
you?
Not a chance.
Not a chance. So for those radar engineers, it's not as hard as you think to track a golf ball.
Okay. Well, so the trick with that is, so if they plan to do these simulator rounds and tournaments and stuff, you know, I understand how they're going to do the irons and the driver, but how are they going to do the putter?
So they're going to have they're going to have a putting green that actually articulates. And it'll based on the shot that they hit, they'll put a ball on it. This is what I think. But I know about the putting green. They'll have these putting greens that can basically do different breaks.
Wow.
So instead of having to build 18 greens in there that are all different shapes, they'll have one green, and that one green will adjust depending on where you hit it. And then the next hole, it might be shaped this way, and then it'd be shaped up.
And then like the hole would move towards them if it was a closer.
Yeah, they might have to put a ball, or I'm not exactly sure. But they already have those types of putting greens. The best players in the world actually have those in their like training rooms that they have in their homes. Like Tiger Woods, you know, John Rahm, they have actually indoor practice in their homes with putting greens that actually can go like this.
Wow.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Jesus. Yeah, the technology is just getting crazy.
And the cool part is on the best ones that move like this, they have lasers from the ceiling that you can shoot down on it, and it can show you the break of the putt.
Wow.
Yeah, and you control it all by an iPad. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, wasn't there there was some issue, I think, with, was it like the green cards, like where they were able to read breaks and stuff, and they were playing it in the tournaments and they banned them?
So they banned the detail that you could have in them, because the problem they were having is ultimately, number one, was pace of play. The guys they were spending too much time standing, looking at a book, spending way too much time. In the old days, you know, you didn't have a book. You'd stand there, you'd look at it from a couple different directions. You go, okay, it's going to break a little bit like this. They would stand there and look at these books, and then they'd pace off how far they were. They might do some math if you were Bryson DeChambeau. Okay. And they had all these little arrows and numbers and all that. And what they had to do is take out some of the detail. So they can still write notes in there, but it can't be at a certain detail level. And that's basically the best putters in the world all wanted it to be that way, because they felt like the people that were basically, they didn't even have to read the green. They just looked at a book, and the book told them what to do. And now you didn't have the art and the skill of having, it'd be like a baseball player always just hitting off a tee versus having to hit a curveball. Right? You know, it's a lot harder to hit a curveball than if it's on a tee every day. Yeah. And so the books were basically teeing it up where all you had to do is just hit it, you know, and it told you where to aim. And that was kind of probably about 2 years ago. There's one guy I actually know, Alex Cheka, nicest guy in the world. I think he's been disqualified twice because his book, after they looked at it and said, no, this wasn't legal. You played a round of golf and this was too detailed, and he got disqualified twice.
Because he wrote things in there, or?
He might have used an old book.
Okay.
And the old book didn't pass the new standards. That's most likely what happened. I know Alex, he wouldn't cheat. He's not that type of guy. And but he's, I think, the only guy so far that's been kind of caught with a book that wasn't by the new standards.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like with these simulators, I feel like these guys, okay, you're going to go play Tory. You know, the pro's going to go home and play Tory on their simulator, you know, hundreds of times before they get to the course. And then if they have that, I think you said it was the adaptive green. Yeah. If they're using that adaptive green and they have the lasers that can read it for them and it can mimic the Torrey Pines greens, in a sense, wouldn't you say that they're already priming themselves for the course itself?
They could. The biggest thing, you know, that you have wind, you have, you know, air pressure, you have elevation, you have moisture in the air and all that. I think the biggest thing that we've seen with the elite level is actually that launch monitor that you hit on when you're at the driving range. They warm up with those now. And the reason they warm up with those is because every day when you're playing at like 7:30 in the morning, teeing off at Torrey Pines in January, in the morning your 7-iron might go 170 yards, and then in the afternoon it's warmer, it might go 176. And in the old days, you'd go, okay, I think it goes a little shorter here because the weather's this or that. They'll actually measure themselves before they play. They'll hit balls and they'll try to figure out how far their clubs go, or they might try to, practice to 100 yards and feel what that feels like today based on the weather. And they do that basically every morning now before they play, or afternoon, because pros typically the first 2 rounds either play in the morning or they play in the afternoon. And because the conditions can be different, the ball goes different distances. As far as playing on a simulator and replicating a course, that's usually a little bit more for the amateurs, where they feel like, hey, I got to play Torrey Pines. The pros themselves, a lot of them love to practice outdoors because the feedback of hitting off natural grass.
Yeah.
They don't like as much to hit off AstroTurf because you can get kind of some little changes in your technique because you don't want to hit the turf too hard. There's been some studies done on how the wrists work in the swing, and people that hit off mats tend to kind of scoop it a little bit more than kind of compress it. And the reason for that is if you keep compressing it on a driving range mat and hitting it like this, you might start to develop some wrist pain. So your brain subconsciously tries to kind of avoid the mat. And so pros are not as apt to practice off mats because it can eventually over time change how you hit the ball.
Yeah, because when you're hitting off the turf, there's not as much give.
Correct.
Where a divot would be created in the natural grass.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, will they do it for TV, for Tomorrow Sports, Tiger? Of course they'll do it. It's about the buck.
Right.
But ultimately, most of those, but there's a ton of guys that have to do that in the wintertime because they might be from a part of the country. And just because their family, they decide, like Steve Stricker, he lives in Wisconsin in the wintertime and it's snowing. And his only way is in his garage to hit into a net just so he can keep his golf muscles kind of going. So, it just depends on the individual. But most of these guys, they'll live in a part of the country they can practice year round.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
outdoors.
I think was it the Phil and Tiger event? That was a pay-per-view?
They didn't, I don't think, charge for it.
Okay.
It was on TNT. Actually, it might have been on a channel like Barstool Sports, or it was on something that you might have had to subscribe to.
Okay.
I actually went to the event.
Oh, yeah?
In Vegas, and it was fun. It was a good time. It was, Tiger and Phil are the kind of guys that wouldn't want to like stop. Okay, let's move the TV cameras to the next hole and interrupt them. They literally played, like when they finished the green putting, they went to the next tee and they teed off. And so it flowed like a normal golf event. Versus I've heard stories about when they used to make these made for TV events. It would take them like 4 hours to play 9 holes because when they finished a hole, they had to move all the TV cameras to the next hole, get it all situated, get it ready. Okay, now you can tee off, kind of thing. It flowed like a normal, match. And it was cool. Obviously it went to a playoff and Phil ended up winning it at the end. But for me, a highlight of it was there was a post-round event at Topgolf in Vegas. And Phil and Tiger showed up at it. And I brought my son, so he got to kind of see Tiger and Phil at Topgolf.
That's cool. Yeah, I feel like they're going to do that. You said it was Tomorrow Sports?
Yep.
I feel like they're going to do pay-per-views for those sort of events, like the simulator, they're hanging out, only a few guys. I think you were saying it's only going to be like 2 or 3 guys, or
from what I saw advertised, it's going to be 3-on-3.
Okay.
Team matches.
That'd be cool.
What's live? Team.
Yeah.
Team. So these guys are taking some of the live stuff.
Maybe they're recognizing though that people enjoy watching teams more.
Yeah, it's interesting. And most of, I was mentioning Topgolf. One of Tiger's investments is in a company called the Puttery, and there's now like Topgolf's coming out that are like indoor putting centers. and they're like they're
Wow.
they're just starting to debut.
Wow.
So you'll go, and each room is a different theme. So one might be kind of a polar theme with polar bears and all this kind of stuff, and the next one's a Western theme, and each one has its own bar, and it's just
Oh, my goodness.
it's just coming out. So that's another instance of indoor golf.
That's
You
cool.
know, hang out, putt, go to these different rooms. It almost sounds like a haunted house.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like I mean, it's just more ways to integrate it to different demographics, right? You know, I mean, if they can put a bar in there, it's going to get a lot more people. Maybe, you know, guys can bring their girls and, you know, kind of make more of a party out of it, you know?
Yeah. I mean, we used to have bowling, right? And pool halls and all that kind of stuff. And golf's kind of, you know, the twist of that with, I mean, ultimately, if you go to Top Golf, it's kind of like bowling.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I mean, it's got all the targets. You hit a ball. If you're not a very good golfer, it might roll into one of the targets. You get points on a screen.
Yeah.
You know, it feels kind of like you're at a bowling alley.
It's kind of like the same setup, right? You have like the mat, and then you have like some chairs that, you know, your party can sit on, and the next one goes up to the mat and comes back, sits down.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good time. Yeah, I think Top Golf's cool because I think that they make it pretty easy for everyone. You know, they put, you know, clubs that are easier to hit. The balls aren't as hard, you know.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, I've seen, you know, people that never played golf go there, enjoy themselves, because ultimately, you know, you're gonna hit the ball, you know, even if you swing and miss a couple times.
Yeah.
And it's likely to maybe go in one of the targets, and you get a few points, and then
Yeah.
the person that's good at golf can kind of, you know, still be kind of the standout. Oh my gosh, look at your swing. It's so good, you know, and they still feel good about themselves.
Yeah.
And everybody has a good time.